Hey everybody, Shawn Tubbs here. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Revv Amplification G3 overdrive pedal. Really great sounding overdrive pedal. It's based on Revv's purple channel, which is a very articulate high gain channel, but it's also a very versatile high gain channel. From low gain to high gain, it sounds great and is voiced to sit just right in the mix. So this is kind of the pedal version of that channel. So let's dig right into it. Let's look at the controls on the top. You've got three controls: bass, middle, and treble. They're all pretty active, but very musical sounding controls. I was particularly impressed with the middle control because it is kind of more of a fat mid. Sounded really great. Bass control sounded huge, but what's nice is it doesn't get out of control if you dime the bass. It still stays relatively tight. And of course the treble was really sweet as well. And I found that it just depended on how you had your gain set up on the pedal. The EQ would act slightly differently. Like the treb would be a little bit less bitey and maybe a little more sweet as you used a little more gain. It just kind of depends on how you run the pedal. On the bottom row you've got your volume control, which is the output of the pedal, and then on the bottom right you have your gain control, and that's going to control the wide range of gain that this pedal offers. Now there's a switch in the center, and that's called the aggression switch. And in the off position, it's got three positions. In the off position, it's going to be essentially your lowest amount of gain. In the blue position, which is the up position, you'll have slightly more gain. In the red position, which is the down position, you're going to have the most gain. But it's not just gain that you're changing. It also kind of changes the way that the frequencies are shelved within the pedal. And you'll hear it as I demo it, but it makes for just a really, really versatile pedal in how just that switch alone works. So without further ado, let's check out this Revv Amplification G3 overdrive. Okay, let's check out this G3 pedal by Revv Amplification. Here is just my guitar into my Cerebella. Got it dialed really clean. Here's the Revv. So right now I've got it in the off position for the aggression mode, and I've got the gain up just a little bit. And I thought before I even start turning up gain or anything, let's just switch between the three modes so you guys can kind of get an idea of what's happening. So here is the aggression mode in the off position. Let's move it to the blue position. Now let's move it down to the red position. Center, off position. Blue position. Here's the red again. So what I'm hearing is it's not only changing the gain structure, but it's also shelving mids and lows kind of in different places. So for me, I loved it in the off position, and I used it more as like my crunch thing. And in all three positions, it felt really ampy. I honestly felt like I was just plugged into a really great channel switching tube amp. So I'm just going to sweep the gain in this position real quick so you can kind of check it out. So here's the gain off. Gain at 12. Gain all the way up. Now I found that the EQ, which is very musical and pretty active, was kind of different depending on where you had the aggression switch set, but also how much gain you had set. I found that the top end would get a little softer as far as how the treble dials if I was running just a little bit more gain, and the lows would become a little bit more apparent as well, as opposed to if I had the gain really backed off and dimed the lows, I wouldn't hear as much difference. But what I'll do is I'll leave it in this position, which is the middle position on the aggression switch, which is off. And I'll just kind of sweep. Let's start with the treble. I'll shut the treble off. So you can hear there the treble's really active, and it just depends on what you're doing. It will actually add volume. So if you're wanting kind of a brighter, more like bitey, kind of cutting thing, you know, you just kind of have to pay attention to your volume as you're cranking that up and down. Okay, here's the mids. The mids are really fat. Here's the mids off. Here's the mids at about 12 o'clock. Here's the mids all the way up. So it's like a really fat kind of lower mid, and you'll hear, if you go back to that performance song, especially when I use the Telecaster, I put the pedal in the blue mode and kind of cranked the mids, and it just made it really fat sounding. Even though it was a Telecaster, you could still hear all that stringiness, but it made it a lot fatter. So it's a really nice, like fat mid control. And then of course the bass, I'll go ahead and shut that off. Bass midway up. Bass all the way up. And I really liked in the middle position, the off position and the aggression, I really liked the bass pretty much dimed. It just felt really good and was just the right amount of low end. So let's just mess around in the blue setting for the aggression switch, which will be slightly more gain with slightly different shelving. That setting felt really great for the first solo that I did with this guitar. I was running maybe a little bit less gain. As a matter of fact, for all those solos, I don't think I got the gain much past about 12 o'clock. And I also really liked this one for backing the gain off and using a little more volume, and it felt really great with Telecasters and Strats, neck or bridge position. But I could still go back to a really hot bridge pickup and it would still sound great. You know, all I did was manipulate the volume. So really great sounding setting. Now let's try out the red setting. Now that one's going to have even more gain, and it's slightly different in the mids and highs. And you know what, I'll just kind of set this kind of like this in the blue setting, and then I'll throw it straight to the red so you can hear what I mean. So you can hear in that red setting, you do get more gain, but it also created a slightly like higher voiced top end, not quite as bitey, even though you can get it bitey by turning up the treble even more. But it just had this really sweet kind of top end for solos. It wasn't harsh. And that's what I used for the when I used that PRS guitar for the very last solo. I actually still had the gain pretty much the same. I just threw it to the red setting and went for it. And it kind of created a little bit more mid, a little bit kind of softer but sweeter top end, and just more gain. So that's the Revv, the G3. So if you've got questions, go to revvamplification.com and ask away. And as always, I appreciate you guys tuning into my channel, and we'll see you next time.